The southpaw contender, Bryant Goodfella Perrella. Like that.
Oh, he caught him well. And he backs up the undefeated David Green.
Another good round for Perrella.
Now they're going to see the freaking monster come back.
Technical knockout and still undefeated. Bryant Goodfella Perrella.
What made you want to write the book?
Really, I would go on long tangents. I would just be speaking about boxing, about mindset, about strategy, you name it, all the preparation. And I would go on these long rants, and then people were like, look, you should put this down. You should document this. You should do some voice notes or something like that. And I was like, all right, that's a good idea. So I actually started doing that. And it just kind of started stacking up. And I was like, you know what? This is a lot of value. And I think this could be great to be in a book. So that's really how it all happened. And especially when I was going through hand surgery, that's where I really just dived full in, having hand issues. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop the value. I'm just gonna give it all out and just give back. This is my give back time.
It seems like injuries have been your worst nightmare throughout your career.
I have been plagued with injuries. But at the same time, those down moments are where I've learned the most, I would say. And that's where you kind of learn to adapt and evolve and just kind of, you have time to actually dive in and learn new things. Because if you're always just constantly training, most of your energy is devoted to training itself. So I think those are the times where I really elevated and set my level of knowledge to a higher echelon.
It's good that you're positive with those injuries, mind outside the ring, because I know how hard it is. As soon as a fighter gets injured, you feel useless, right? Even the tiniest of injuries. So the fact that you've managed to actually focus your attention on other things, fair play to you. And in terms of the book itself, what do you want from it? What's your clientele? Are you wanting to have people come to you in 20 years' time that are world champions saying, man, I read your book when I was an amateur? Is that what you want from this?
That would be amazing. I would love that. I really just want someone who starts reading it to be like, wow, this is, I would just want them to be so like grateful that a person put this in a book. And I know me personally, like as a fighter, especially when I was actively competing more and in my grind, sometimes I would like kind of hold certain things to myself. And you're just kind of worried about spreading it out and you want to lose your edge, your competitive edge. And now I'm like, you know what? Let me just put it all out there so people can pick it up, absorb it. And when they start off, they don't have to make all the mistakes that I did and what I went through. And they could just start off like way further ahead and they can take it to a whole nother extreme level.
It's funny how boxing works because everyone keeps their tricks close to them. And when you're competing, like even the problem that I've got where I help try and market fighters, they don't want to give it away. They don't want to show anything in pads, in training. I've been told before, don't post this because of this. It's very secretive. So for you to be literally an open book and to give all your knowledge, let's talk about your career. So for people that might not know you, when do you think your career, I know obviously you were destined for world honours and everything. When did you think it really started to take off?
Well, it's an interesting story. Initially, I was fighting in an amateur tournament and a national PAL tournament, and there was some top-ranked scouters out there, and they were looking for new talent, things of that nature, and who they could sign to turn professional. And I was winning day after day after day. I was looking good. And I ended up fighting Earl Spence Jr. of all people. And they seen that. And I had no idea at the time. I had no clue. I kept continuing my amateur career, When I was ready to turn pro, they contacted my coach and they said, look, we're looking to sign your guy. I'm like, what? Okay. And they said they thought I won that fight. Coming from Earl Spence, he'll tell you himself that I was probably his toughest amateur opponent he ever had. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. And that gave me the beginning opportunity. Now, I was with Top Rank. I wasn't with them long. I was still immature. I didn't know what I know now, obviously. If I had this book, it would have been a different ball game. But I ended up getting out of contract with them. And I was in a position where I literally couldn't get a fight. No one would give me a fight. No promoter, no manager, nothing. We're sending out all these flyers and this is my background. I had this, I had that, sparring videos of me like kicking butt and sparring. And I couldn't get a shot. I could not get a shot. No one would give me any opportunity. So I was going on a sparring trip. I mean, and training like beast, like literally. That's the thing. Like they were saying no, and I'm like, I can't take no for an answer. And I just kept training and training. Got back with a really good team, and we got put together. And I was training day and night. I mean, I would get home at 2 a.m, wake up, train again, and just putting it all out there. And I finally got my break by going to Dan Birmingham's gym where Keith Thurman is. And I got into the ring with him and I was able to spar him. I did really, really well. I came back again for another sparring session. He was getting prepared for a fight. I'm not exactly sure what fight it was exactly, but I got in there with him again and I did great. And they're like, man, you're not signed? I'm like, no, I can't get a fight. Can't get a fight. So they literally told Al Heyman, look, we got this kid. He's the real deal. He's got the goods. He's special. And they gave me the good grace, and they told Al Heyman, which is the guy I really, really wanted to get with. That was my vision to begin with. And the weekend passed. That Monday, I got a contract on the table from Al Heyman. And that's where I was like, okay, it was like an amazing feeling knowing like, this is the guy I wanted to get with from the beginning. And I tried to get with all these other local promoters, and I couldn't even get a chance with them. They wouldn't give it to me, and they wouldn't give me a fighter opportunity. And then I ended up, the one opportunity I get is with Heyman himself, which is just crazy how it works sometimes. And that was the beginning. And I had my first fight with Al Heyman, and I knocked the guy out in the first round, and that was all she wrote. And I went on another huge knockout streak, and all was good.
How many knockouts did you have in a row? Was it like 14 straight knockouts?
No, it wasn't 14 straight. It was 11 straight knockouts. 11 straight knockouts.
That's impressive.
And yeah, and I was knocking out guys that had never been knocked out before. I was in beast mode straight up just before I got plagued with all the injuries, but I was doing my thing. I was just running through these guys and beating tough prospects and other guys that were, they would say they would be journeymen, but I mean, they have losses, but these guys are tough, man. These guys are upsetting other undefeated prospects.
I tell you what, I've been to some shows, and these journeymen, these B-side fighters, they are ruthless. If you switch off for 1 second, it's lights out. Like, these guys are coming to win. Whereas in England, I see a lot of journeymen tuck up, step back, take the loss, and go on for another fight the following week. But I have noticed the guys in America, especially like your Mexican opponents, all these people with like 10, 20 losses, man, you learn a lot in those fights. And I've seen debutants get upset with a draw, with a loss, just because you're not prepared. Like, you think they're going to be a B-side guy. But yeah, I can imagine you going through all of those guys. That's impressive to me, because I know full well how tough. They're tougher than those at the world level, because they know how to grit through to the end. So to take those guys out, that's actually harder.
I agree. And it's so easy to underestimate a guy like that. You're like, oh, he's got these losses. He's been, especially when you're young, you don't know any better, and you're undefeated, and you're like, you put such a big value on the record itself, and you don't realize like these guys are nothing to be played with. I had fought one of my toughest opponents ever. His name was Victor Fonseca, and he was a last-minute replacement from Tijuana, Mexico. Like you said, Mexican. This guy, my matchmakers, they told my coach, I hope your guy can fight, because this guy's tough. And they're like, oh yeah. And like literally 2 weeks before the fight, I got my nose broken. I had black eyes and everything, and I was like, man, but it was my shot to fight at the Hard Rock Casino. It was in Vegas, and I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. So I rolled up. I like I already got in a fight when I was at the weigh-ins. Like he already looks like he already been through a ballroom brawl. I mean, but so I ended up getting in the ring and I fought this guy, and my gosh, he was just coming forward. I was hitting him with everything. I was hitting with my hardest shots to the head and the body. I was hitting with the hardest counter punches that were knocking everybody else out before. And I would hit him and his head would go all the way back, and he would just keep marching forward. And then before you know it, I started getting tired. I was out of breath. I'm like, man, and I'm starting to lay on the ropes, and this guy hits hard. So he's got a chin, he's got stamina, and he has punching power. Those three things are the recipe for an upset when you're fighting that kind of guy. Luckily, in the last round, my coach told me, at the time, he told me, just loosen up. Stop trying to hit him hard with everything. And just let go. Just throw 1-2. Just be light. Be loose. Just let it go. Let him flow. Think speed. And I did. And what happens is I caught him. I didn't even throw that. I didn't feel like I threw my hardest punch. I just let it go. And he got wobbled. And I ended up being able to finish him off. And it was crazy, glorious battle and a win for me. So.
Wow. Would you say that's one of your best wins?
I would say yes, because I was able to overcome the adversity. I was able to literally take advice and actually just execute right there in the moment, and it worked spot on. And being able to stop a guy that's never been stopped before, that's been in there. He's been through the ringer, fought all the top guys, prospect after prospect after prospect on his record, and he beat many of them as well. So I think that was one of the best wins.
Do you remember his name?
Victor Fonseca.
Nice, shout out to him. See, without those guys, you would never have learned so much from that fight. I actually had a good interview with Virgil Ortiz Jr. and he said the first fight when he didn't get the knockout, when he had to go the distance, he learned so much because he was so used to blowing guys out of there. And I think you soon realise some guys they're like the Terminators. You could hit them with a brick and they're going to come forward. So yeah, I can imagine that helped shape you. I just want to go back though. Obviously you said about how you got the shot with Al Heyman just because of sparring Keith Thurman. Would you say advice for these up and coming pros that are legit, that have definitely got a future, do they need to be getting themselves into those gyms, testing themselves with those guys to get the shot? Because I feel like you need to be seen with those guys really to get any look in.
Absolutely. That would be great advice that I would give to anybody who's looking to get an opportunity. You have to get outside of your little hometown circle. Because it's easy to get an ego boost. You're the best guy in town. Everybody's praising you, and you can beat up on the sparring partners. You're great. Okay. But if you're trying to go to the next level, you're trying to get signed, it's a big world out there. And you have to be able to compete against higher level competition, and that's what the promoters are actually looking for. People are looking to sign you because they're not going to invest in a fighter that can only beat circle local type of talent. They're going to have to be able to get to the world stage and do something. So it's definitely a great idea to go out of your comfort zone and go to some other gyms. And it doesn't have to be always like a world-class gym, but just go out there and be seen. Boxing's a small world and news travels fast. So if you're out there and you're looking great and you're shining, people are going to be talking. They're going to be talking. And if you can get into a really nice gym where you can get in there in the ring with someone at the level of Keith Thurman, it's a blessing. And it's a great opportunity. Now, those opportunities don't come often because those guys are not just going to give it to anybody because they know guys are going out there to try to prove their stuff against them, and they're going to whip out a camera and they just to get some clout. So it's not always easy to get in the ring with those guys. But just making noise by going out there, going out of your comfort zone, that's also going to give you a lot of confidence as well. It's going to expand your repertoire. It's going to expand your mind. It's going to show you what's really out there. You may get an ego check as well because you're going to see that you're not the greatest thing popping at all times like you think. There's other great fighters out there, and you have to go outside of yourself to actually go find them.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of great amateurs, right, that really struggle when they turn over. Obviously, you had a good amateur career. What's the biggest advice you could give those people that are going from being on like the Team USA circuit, they got everything given to them, they finally transition, and you're on your own, right? You've got to find your own team, you've got to get everything in place so you can really propel yourself, and also setting up not just the team, but the vision, the future, making sure everything goes correctly whilst training full time. What's the biggest advice you could give to these guys that are turning over? Because I feel like some of the best amateurs struggle to transition because there's just so many things you got to balance in that transition, not even just learning the pro style.
Yeah, well, first of all, yes, for me, I would say there's the amateurs. That's one thing. You're going 3 rounds and it's not the same. Where when you turn pro, it's a very physical sport now. Now it really goes from just a lot of technical to straight physicality starts really getting involved. You have no headgear, smaller gloves, which are designed differently. They're designed for KOs. So you have to be able to take it. And when you put the gloves on, you're like, oh man, all I need is one punch. That's all I need. I'm going to be knocking everybody out. But you have to keep in mind that you're going to be getting hit with them too. So the training has to step up. You have to start throwing more effective shots. It's not about just scoring anymore. You need to sit down on your punches. You need to sink in. You got to throw body shots. And you have to prepare yourself for war. You have to become resilient. You got to work out your neck. You got to work out your body. You have to be ready to get hit. You can give it, but you have to be able to take it. And that's a huge proponent of professional fighting. It really becomes now a job. It is a job, and it's where you have to really take it seriously. And I would say that's my number one advice on that aspect. And then of course there's the marketing and talking and all that, which I was never too much into it because I was more of introverted and I was just into the training, just bringing my best to the fight and letting the results show for themselves. For which the most part that can take you a long way. It's better than just being all hype and then not being able to do something under the bright lights. But I would say the main thing is just knowing that the training is going to alter and you have to be prepared for it. It's not always going to be fun. It's really grueling to really be built up and be prepared for a real physical fight.
Mm-hmm. And I want to touch on the mental side. I know obviously that's a huge part. When you got yourself mentally prepared, what did you do? What was the best thing before a fight for you to go in there fully confident? What was your checklist of things that you had to go through to know I'm ready, I'm the man?
You know what I would do? I would have a notebook, and every time I would work out, I'd write down my workouts. And it became like a little dopamine hit, being able to keep on putting down things in this note. I did all this in this day. And it could be anything. It could be just watching film. I stretched. I did strength conditioning. I ran. I did this amount of rounds in boxing. And that to me really gives that confidence, because to me the confidence comes from competence and doing the thing. And when you can see the action that you've been putting in and doing the action yourself, you feel it. When you feel like a beast, you're a beast. Mentally, you're like, I'm a beast. I feel like a beast. I'm a beast, right? Instead of trying to just tell yourself and try, oh, I'm confident, I'm the best, but you're not actually doing things to back it up. When you actually are doing the thing and writing them down, that's like a little cheat code for the mind, because you can now look back. And as we know, we're all human, so doubts are going to hit us and fear is going to come. So when you time the fight and it's like, okay, you're ready to go out there and you're ready to go to shine under the bright lights, you can look at these notes and be like, oh my gosh, I just did all this. Man, this is proof. This is the proof that I'm ready to go. And for me, that was something that I used to do, and I feel like it really helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. And when you went into your first ever 50-50 fight, where you know you're a beast, but you know your opponent's got a good chance, obviously the mindset does shift, right? You know you're at the world level. For example, if we talk about your fight with Ugas, you know, you're preparing for arguably one of the best fighters in the division for a very long time, right? How was your mindset going in, knowing the shift of opponent? Because obviously it all changes then. You've been built up, you've had your tests, and then all of a sudden, now you're in it. Now you're in a fight where you don't know if you're going to win, you don't know if you're going to lose, but you've still got to be mentally ready. What was the changes there? Was it just confidence in practice, or is it just an accumulation of things?
That fight, to be honest, that was the one fight where I would say an opponent was underestimated, where I was just running through people, right? And I had a minor injury in my leg, which was minor at the time. And I was like, okay. And in the beginning of camp, I was hyped up. I was getting up at 6 a.m. I was actually doing CrossFit at this time, and I was really getting a lot of results from it, powerlifting and adding that with the boxing. But what happened was, I thought it was just a muscle injury from because I was sparring a heavyweight the camp prior, and he hit me with an uppercut to my leg. And I was like, okay. And what happened is, it twinged, and then it would lock up, and it wouldn't. My leg wouldn't bend. It was like this, and I thought I was just gonna go away. And I was going to physical therapy, and they're stretching, and I was just doing a lot of swimming, and I was doing a lot of shadow boxing, things like that. Some mitt work, some bag work. Not really too much sparring, but we thought we could go through with it anyway. I was undefeated. I didn't feel like I could be beaten, and I seen the guy. But once again, you see the losses, and he might have, at the time, it was like, I'm going to run through him because stylistically I felt like I could just do it. And that goes to show you never underestimate an opponent, ever. And I didn't go into that fight fully prepared as I should have. Wasn't able to do the beast mode training, but in my mind, right, I was still going to do it because I'm undefeated and I never lost, so I can never see myself ever possibly losing. And then I'm in the ring with one of the best fighters I've ever been in the ring with. And that's no bueno if you're not ready to go, if you're not fully prepared. And it didn't take me long to find that out. He was extremely fast, extremely sharp. His counter punches were right on the dime. And it was just, it was not a good night for me, let's put it that way.
What advice would you give to yourself now if you were back in that camp before? Would you have took the fight? Would you have took time away to fully recover? What was your thinking after?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have. Here's the thing. I was supposed to fight him before, and the fight got canceled because I had a minor fracture in my thumb. And the New York Athletic State Commission, they're a little bit more strict, and they're like, no, he can't fight. They'll just say, nope, you're not fighting. And I was like, okay, so we got pulled out from that fight. Then, of course, it was like, oh, everybody was excited. You let everybody down, and all the whole training camp you went through. So then the next time I got rescheduled with Ugas, and I wanted to get rescheduled with him. And then this happened, the leg, and it was like, man, I can't pull out again. It's just going to look horrible. It's just like, it's making me look bad. So looking back, I just would have bit the bullet and I would have said, no, I'm pulling out again. Yes. But hindsight's 20/20. It's tough when you're actually in that position and everybody is waiting for you to fight and you have so much already invested into it. It becomes tough. But looking back, it's never worth risking it. Your undefeated record, risking your life under the bright lights in the ring. I mean, it's serious. So you should always make sure you're 100% prepared for any fight. Now, it's hard to be 100% prepared. There's always going to be something. But if it's something that's going to prevent you from being able to go all out in camp and really prepare yourself for the rigors of war, the rigors of combat, it's not worth the risk. It's a roll of the dice, and it's usually not in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know most fighters train with injuries all the time. Like, your body's always under a lot of pressure. It must be so hard to know, is this going to really affect the performance? What's the opponent like? I'm sure you could get away with it earlier in your career, but when you face someone like Ugas, you got to come in 100%, right? So would you say to other fighters that might be in that position, because also the paycheck's there, like you said, your team are waiting on it, everyone, it's not just yourself, there's a lot of people, even just like the ticket sales for other fighters, like there's a lot of things that go into each fight. Would you say it is worth swallowing your pride and just live to fight another day in those moments? Because as you know as well in boxing, if you're a fighter and you take that loss, you might not even get another opportunity, even though, because no one cares. Unfortunately, that's the harsh reality. Whatever's going on in any fighter's life, no one cares. And you know, you're against yourself really in what you do and what you pick to do. So would you say for fighters, maybe don't take that risk if it's not right?
Well, I want to say you're spot on. No one cares. They only care about the results. That's it. Don't believe the hype. You got to stay in objective reality here. If you're not really prepared, once you take that loss, people are going to jump off the bandwagon. They're not going to care. They're going to move on to the next fighter. They're going to say, oh, you're never that to begin with, that you were nothing. And anything you say is going to be an excuse. So you're better off not even having an excuse if you can help it, because it's all about the results. And going for that paycheck and because you don't want to let people down, it's not worth taking a loss over, because in this game, losses make a big impact on your career, a huge impact, especially when you're undefeated. Even if you're not, I mean, wins and losses both have a very big impact, but a loss also has even bigger impact, because it takes away that aura, it takes away that perceived beast in that ring that you are. So now it takes that away from you, and it takes away from the perception and paradigm of the viewers and the fans as well, which hurts your marketing. It hurts the promotion, and it hurts the paycheck for your next fight and all your next fights until you can battle your way out of it, which is very possible to do that. But it definitely becomes an uphill battle to climb.
So a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to be next out? What's going on? Obviously, you're only 36 years old. You've had 2 back-to-back draws with good opponents, and you've been touted to win titles. Obviously, Roy Jones has sung your praises, a lot of people. Can you tell people the reason why you're not competing anymore?
That's a big one. That's a big one right there. So what happened was I had a very bad hand problems. As all fighters, I'm sure they go through this. However, this one was really bad because what I was doing was, to get by in all my fights and in training, I was getting cortisone shots. Now, what happens with cortisone shots is it starts to erode the cartilage in your knuckle and in the joint. Without cartilage, your knuckle doesn't want to do this. So what happens is it wouldn't fully close, and when I would press down, oh my God, excruciating pain. So I'll just keep getting shot, and I would get through. I would fight, I would train, I would go next, and eventually it got to a point where there was like no cartilage left. So even a cortisone shot would start eroding the bone at that point, which is definitely not good. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get surgery. I'm gonna get a specific type of surgery where my knuckle's gonna be in a specific position, because you can't put the cartilage back, it's gone. But it was gonna be in a specific position in which it would heal and be strong, and I would still be able to continue, hopefully. And it didn't heal properly, which it should have healed properly. I was doing some light sparring, and I hit it, and I was like, oh, it was hurting so bad. And we told the doctor, and he said, that's not supposed to happen. So I was like, okay. So I went back, and I got some blood testing done, because I'll tell you what, there's definitely been something wrong with me during my entire career, I know, and I've kind of hidden it from the boxing world. I hid it from a lot of people, because I would go through injuries like crazy, and then when I had surgeries, it was the most horrific things I've ever went through. But I come to find out the reason it didn't heal properly was because I have a very rare bleeding disorder called hemophilia B. Now, this makes things extremely dangerous. Just to even do a contact sport would be highly advised to not do any contact sport, much less boxing, of all the sports to do. And I didn't realize this at the time. The doctor told me, I have this. And I'm like, okay. I'm just thinking, okay, so they'll just put an extra infusion when I do surgery and it'll heal and I'll be fine. And he was like, the problem is boxing. That's the problem. And I'm like, And it was like, he's like, I think you're going to have to do another sport, or you're maybe do something, you could play soccer. And I was like, what are you telling me? Like, it's over? Like, and I really didn't want to accept it. I was completely in denial. It was a very dark time for me. And I got this surgery in Colombia. And I like the Colombia healthcare system. It's really, really good. And people are very caring, and it's easier. It's obviously cheaper to get that if you don't have insurance. And as a fighter, it's hard to get insurance. So over there, it's much easier to get all these things done, especially the blood testing. It's expensive. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm still going to box. I'm not going to let this. I'm just going to get another surgery on my hand. I'm going to get the factor 9 infusion, is what it's called, to help clot my blood, because my blood doesn't clot. It would just keep on bleeding profusely, does not stop bleeding. And I was still training. I'm like, I'm going to come back. And I went out. I actually went to Roy Jones' gym. And he asked me what's going on. I'm like, I need another hand surgery. And he's like, okay, well, I think I can get that handled for you. I can get that surgery done for you. And just let me know what the cost is. And I'm like, all right, man. And I was like, but in my mind, I know I have this condition now. And I was really battling with it. It was a really, really back and forth tug of war in my mind. Like, it's very tough to detach from something that you tied your entire identity to. I tied my who am I? If I don't have boxing, who am I? Nobody. And I'm like, nobody cares. They only care about the performer, the boxer. And I dug more into it. I did more research, and it was like, this is extremely dangerous. The fact that I even went through an entire career with this is insane. And I had signs, but actually knowing now what it is and the dangers, basically playing Russian roulette with my career, any punch to the head could be a brain aneurysm or a brain bleed, and even to the body. I mean, I had some weird injuries all the time, which is probably why the thing happened with the leg. And it was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to part my ways. And it was very, very, very tough to get me to that conclusion. So somewhat recently, I was able to actually just call him up and look and let him know the reason that I never got back to him about the hand surgery. Just kind of call the coaches and the people that were helping me and just kind of let them know, like, this is what happened. This is what's been going on. And this is why it's just too much to come back to the ring now. And that being said, obviously I can't get back into the ring, but I'm going to be fighting from another corner now.
And when did you make the decision that you're hanging the gloves up? How long ago was this?
It's like I unconsciously knew, but I didn't want to accept it. And I would say, when I finally made the decision to call up Roy Jones, I guess that put the nail in the coffin right there. And I let him know. That was kind of me releasing. And I'm like, if I make this call, I can't come back because the cat's out of the bag. And I think that wasn't even a few months ago.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'll tell you what, I've did a Ricky Hatton post today. Obviously it's fresh for everybody. What's happened with him, was how he's handled post-career with a lot of demons. like you said, your identity as a fighter is everything. And it's such a short-lived career. And even for yourself now, knowing that you could have won world titles by now, your life could have been completely different with all of those things. It's so difficult to just drop it all, be positive and move on to something else. And the fact it's only a few months in and you're already deciding to potentially go into the other side, you've released a book already, it's incredible. You're gonna be helping fighters now with all the knowledge and experience. It's nice to know that you've already found that path now, instead of potentially going into a depression, finding vices, quick dopamine fixes, things that the average human does. We've all been there when we go through tough times. So what advice do you have for fighters that are coming to the end of their careers, that have now got 50 plus years of a new career or whatever, you know? What's the best way to handle it, to have a new identity? Do you think it's partially even in your career, knowing that it's short-lived, preparing yourself for the next chapter already? Or is that not good? Because you want to be all in as a fighter, right? You can't be thinking about retirement, so.
Yeah, well, for me, during the hand surgery, or during the hand knuckle pain, the problems, I wasn't able to get in the ring for a long time. So that's really when I began jotting down these notes. And that was over 2.5 years ago. And I was putting these notes down, which ultimately turned into the book. And I also was like, I was learning some things about business and things of that nature. Not completely, but I was definitely learning a lot, because I could kind of just feel it in my mind. I'm like, I don't know, if this hand doesn't work, what am I going to do? And like I said, when I finally just came to the conclusion and I got myself out of denial, I'm like, I'm just going to have to make a transition here. I have to do it. It's not worth risking my life over. And really what I would say is, when you're a fighter, when you have a boxing career as a fighter, you develop a lot of inner characteristics that maybe many people don't actually have to that level, to that extent. Because as a fighter, the discipline you have, the perseverance you have, the ability to have courage, to face your fears and go into battle is unrivaled. Most people would never be able to build that kind of character that you can build as a fighter. Now, when you have these inner qualities built, this changes the game. This is where you can transfer it over to any other field. No issue, no problem. And you can continue in whatever field that you choose, because nothing is lost. You don't go down, you go across and up. That's it. You just transfer to another domain and you use those same characteristics that you built in your career. Whatever it is that you want to do. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be necessarily boxing related. Can be, because that's where a lot of knowledge I'm sure that as a fighter you would have. However, that's not a mandatory. You could bring it into anything. You can go into a business, you could start a business, and you have all the qualities it takes. Put in the work, be disciplined, believe in yourself, have confidence. You're already starting off ahead of most people right away. You may not have the business acumen, but that's just simply it's just repetition, just learning. The same thing you did for boxing, you can transfer it over, and you're going to learn so much faster than a normal person, because you've already had these inner qualities built. And for me personally, I think that's really helped me a lot, and it makes it much easier to transition. Just knowing that, I'm like, if I could survive a whole boxing career and I can get in the ring and fight these beasts, what is business? Bring it on. Bring it on.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you said that, because even boxing as an amateur for myself, the discipline and everything I've learned in the last 12 years that I've put into my personal life, it makes you a high performer. It makes you resilient, you know, being able to take the worst things in life whilst you still smile and move on. As soon as you go into a business or whatever you're going to do in the next chapter, you are going to be hit with every single problem. You're going to be snaked. You're going to have money problems. You're going to have bad relationships. You're going to have days where you're like, what's going on? But because of the resilience and being consistent and knowing what you're doing, you're guaranteed to be successful. And like you said, success constantly up, down. But like you said, it's not really down because you're already so far ahead, as so many people don't have those qualities. And that's why I think everybody should train as well. And I'm sure your book will resonate, not just with fighters, but if people are going to be looking just deep into the mindset and everything else, even as a casual fan that wonders what they're going to do, I can imagine that it's going to inspire people to be a better version of themselves. And that really is boxing, right? It's you versus you every day. You know, you don't wake up every day thinking about your opponent. You're like, how am I going to be better today? And when you go on to your next chapter in life, which you're doing right now, you're ready. And I think the hardest part is that attachment to the identity of a fighter. You're always going to be a fighter. You're always going to be sizing people up thinking, yeah, you know, I've still got it. Like, there's always going to be that element to it, right?
Definitely. Definitely. You're once a fighter, always a fighter. As you know, once it gets in your blood, it stays. You just can't get it out. You're always going to have that itch. You're always going to feel it. But you just take that same grit, the same tenacity, and move it on over to a new arena. And you know, you may not be getting punched in the face. You're going to be getting hit with lefts and rights from a different domain, and like you said, different relationships, or even the competition. Right? When you're a fighter, you look at your competition. You size up your competition. You analyze their strengths, their weaknesses. Right? You're analyzing them. Well, it's the same thing when you go over to business. In a sense, I mean, if you have your competitors, you're looking at them, and even if they're not competitors, maybe you can just learn from them and see some moves, just like in boxing. You watch guys on TV. I mean, when I was going to fight, before I fought Tony Harrison, I remember watching him fight Charlo, and I was taking notes. I'm like, fight on the inside like Tony Harrison. He does this, he does that. And I was just trying to take some things from him because I was a fan. Next thing you know, I'm fighting him. And it's funny because it's the same thing in business. You can just see what other people are doing great and be like, okay, that works. And maybe that I can use that. I can use this. I can use that. And it's very similar. All things transfer over. And it's like principles carry over. If it's a principle in one area, it's a principle in another. And it always connects. It's pattern recognition. And when you understand that, there's these underlying principles and framework for everything. And it doesn't matter what you do. It really is it's similar, it's different, but it's very similar. And just knowing that should give any fighter confidence, like, look, you got this. You got this. If you were able to fight any other domain, any other endeavor you do, easy peasy, bring it on.
Mm-hmm. And when you've had your biggest lows, and obviously mental health has been a big factor, what have you done to get out of those ruts? What is the thought process, and what do you do to make sure that it's temporary and you move on? Because a lot of people, when they're feeling at their lowest and they feel like the walls have come crashing down, you don't see a tomorrow. You got a grey cloud over your head. You're not thinking straight. You know, your emotions are pretty much out of whack. Especially as a fighter, you are experiencing big highs and big lows simultaneously. You're constantly, people are coming up to you thinking, oh, he's going to fight for a world title next. And at the same time, you're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to box anymore. And there's a lot that goes through a fighter's mind. But what is your thought process to make sure that you're mentally better, I guess?
Yeah, for me, when I took my first loss, it was devastating to me. It's very devastating because you can imagine, like you said, the highest high, and then you just fall off a cliff, and now you're at the bottom. Everybody's talking bad things about you. Now the locker room is empty. After my loss, there wasn't a bunch of people there. There wasn't a bunch of people saying, oh, it's okay, you're great. There was just a couple people. It was like, where did everybody go? It was like you turn on the light and all the cockroaches scattered, gone. It was like, man, and that's what it was. It's a blow to the ego. It's a blow to the entire vision you have of your future, what you thought. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, and I'm going to be undefeated. And you can never imagine all of a sudden you take an L and you're down. What I did at the time, look, I lived in a boxing gym for like 7 years. So I ate, slept, and breathed this game. So that's where I was, back in my little dungeon on the couch. And what was I doing? I was looking into other great, not just great fighters, because there's great fighters. I looked at like Hopkins. He lost his first fight. If he can overcome that, I mean, then this should not be an issue. And other fighters, so many great fighters took losses. They took losses and they came back and they were legends. Some of the biggest legends of the sport that there's ever been have losses. There's not many fighters that just to stay undefeated. It's very rare, but it's not a prerequisite for greatness. You don't have to be undefeated to be great. Arguably the pound for pound greatest fighters of all time have losses. So a loss doesn't define you. What defines you is your ability to learn, to get back up, and to keep moving forward and to come back better than ever. That is the mark of a true champion. And also, it's not just in boxing. For me, I've seen what other great people did in life. The other top performers, they've been through the same thing, even worse. Sometimes you could be grateful for that. This is all I had to go through, because what these other people had to overcome was like way worse. I couldn't even imagine. And if they were able to overcome and achieve monumental greatness, one loss, that's nothing. That's nothing. Once you zoom out of the picture and you look at it, you're like, you know what? This is not that big of a deal. I'm going to come back. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. And I'm going to make people respect me. They're going to see how much better I became. And this loss, it fueled something. It turned me into a beast. Now they're going to see the freaking monster come back. Now they're going to see what being a champion's all about. And that's exactly my mindset. Anytime I took a loss, I came back hungrier, better, smarter than ever. And it's just something that you don't really experience until you take a loss. And you want to come back and you want to prove people. And it's that chip on your shoulder. So for me, I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, and what I love the most is you do need to go through those bad emotions. They drive you. That loss, that feeling of emptiness, being, worthless, feeling like you're this small. I think that negative mindset that you go through where you question everything, you need that. I think every fighter needs to go through that hardship so they can come out and be better. Like you said, the mindset is so important and it's shaped on failure. And I think you need to fail to be the best. If you look at any great person, they've made every mistake we've made on that way. And I think failure needs to be embraced more. And the fact you've just said it like that, it's great. And obviously you saw in your career, some of your fights, you've been in some amazing fights, even the draws that could have gone either way. I was watching some of these fights yesterday and it's great. And you can even see the improvements each fight in any fighter. Like when you said you want to judge someone, like for example, Harrison, you can't really judge them on what they were 2 years ago because they're a different animal now. Like you can't watch tape on a fighter, or like boxing fans are great at this. They'll be like, oh, but he got knocked out in 2018 by so-and-so. And what? 7 years later, they are up here now. They're a different, you've grown out of your skin, you've grown out of your shell. And I'm glad to hear that you're embracing that failure, and it's needed in anything in life.
I agree. There's a saying, you want to fail your way forward. And that's really the truth. I don't know the quote exactly. Michael Jordan said of why he was able to be so great was because he missed so many shots. And that's really the truth. You learn more through failure than you do through any win, because you're forced to have introspection. You're forced to reflect on that moment and what it is that caused you to take this L, what caused you to lose, what caused you to have this failure. But really, the word failure kind of has like a negative connotation to it, because in every perceived negative event, there's an equal and opposite seed of a positive. This is a Napoleon Hill quote, and it's so true, because it's all about how you perceive it. How do you view this setback, this adversity? Do you look at it like failure, or do you look at it like learning? Is this an opportunity to learn and grow? And it gives you ability to focus on something that you didn't focus on before. And now you can actually turn this into a positive, to a benefit. This is a universal law. This is a rule. Anything negative that happens, it has a seed of an equivalent benefit to it. You just have to have that mindset. If your perception is that way, you're going to find reasons to reinforce that reality. And you will find a way to turn it in your favor. And there's always a way to turn it in your favor.
Mm-hmm. And what advice, I know obviously you've got a whole book on advice, but what is the big takeaway for anyone that wants to be successful in fighting? What's the one bit of advice you could give them that will help them all the way?
You want to be successful in fighting, you have to be obsessed. I would say be obsessed with the goal. Be obsessed with preparation. Gauge your success off of how hard you work for it. Don't gauge it off of wins. Gauge it off of what are you actually putting in. How many stones are you leaving unturned? How much knowledge are you getting? How much practice and how much just refining your own techniques? How much of that are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Are you eating clean? Are you putting in your road work? Are you putting in the rounds? Are you remaining a student of the game? That's really what matters, because it's all in the preparation. Preparation is king. That is the one tangible thing that you know has a direct equivalent, and it shows exactly what's going to happen in the ring. It's all about preparation. That is the main thing. And understanding that and knowing that can give a fighter a lot of confidence, because for me, I would see fighters that are so phenomenal and amazing when I was starting off, and I'm like, I'll never be that good. How could I ever be that good? It's impossible. They're just talented. They're just special. They're just born this way. But the reality is, that's not the case. The truth is, they work years and years and years, and they put in the work, they put in the repetition. And over time, it becomes a compound effect. And before you know it, you're that guy. You're the guy that's so good. You're the guy that other people are looking up and say, how did he get so good? He's special. He's talented. But to me, talent doesn't really exist. There's a natural inclination that we all have. And that natural inclination that we can build on, we can water. And when we water it, that's where greatness is born. That's where it starts to, the seed starts to sprout. And you just keep working. And skill. Look, skill is not something you're born with. No one comes out of the womb fighting like Mike Tyson. It just doesn't happen. I mean, when I first started throwing punches, I was like flailing in water. I looked crazy. Everybody starts off that way. You have to develop the skill, and skill is acquired. It takes repetition, it takes refinement, day in and day out. And this stacks. And before you know it, you're sharp as a tack. Now people are calling you talented. People are calling you special. But really, it's just the work. It's always the work.
Mm-hmm. And the consistency, I think no one can really look at, when you see these world titles, let's look at Bud Crawford, right? He's been at the top of his game for decades. Even in the amateurs, really good. People don't realise that it is decades of consistency. So if you're going to dedicate, whether it's boxing, whether it's knitting, whatever you're going to do, if you put in decades of consistent work, those little 1%, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. It is the decades. It is the compound effect of doing the right thing day in and day out. It's really having great habits. And habits is a powerful thing, because initially it's hard to do. It's hard to get rid of a bad habit, but really what you do is you just switch it out for something different and replace it. Whatever that bad habit is, replace it with something else. Replace it with a good habit. And before you know it, you don't really have to force yourself to do it. It just starts to become routine. Like now I just automatically, I get up, I drink water. Now I crave working out. I crave eating healthy foods. I crave going for a run, because I know that for one, this is my new comfort zone. For two, I know that this is where all the benefits come from. And as you keep doing it, you actually see the results. You could feel the results. You're looking better. People are telling you, you're looking great. You look great that sparring session. You look, and you now you're actually seeing the fruits of your labor. And it's just sticking in on that and just knowing that. Anytime you have a moment of, should I do this or should I do that? Just think to yourself, will my future version be happy about the decision I'm making in this moment? Will my future self thank me for this? Is it going to help me or is it going to hurt me? And just make that decision right then and there. Do the right thing. And Bud Crawford he's special in a sense because he's able to consistently be that 1%er year after year after year. That's tough to do. That is hard to do. And I think it comes a lot with just having the right people around you and being okay with being bored, so to say. On your downtime, I mean, I don't know what he does, but I know he's kind of laid back and he's chill. And I think that plays a huge role in his development because he doesn't have a lot of bad habits that can pull him down. I mean, what he's doing for fun is fishing or playing basketball or wrestling. This is cross training. This actually helps you in the ring. I mean, that's the thing. Like a guy like that, it's tough to beat. He's tough to beat. He doesn't really have a lot of vices. I mean, and over time, that stacks up and adds up, and it creates that separation where you can't just make it up in a camp. One camp is not going to help you if you're going against a guy like that. He's been doing this for years. It just builds up, and ultimately, that's why people like that are who they are.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about bad habits, like you said. There's a lot of fighters that you get a bit of limelight, you get signed, they get a bit of money. A lot of us come from nothing, right? When you see fighters start going to the club, even if they're not drinking, going to the club, late nights, women, all these things, it's all natural, right? Especially as a young man, you're going to be tempted with everything. You feel like you're on top of the world. What's the bad habits that you see in most fighters nowadays that are making their way through that you should sort of advise them away from? Is there anything in particular that you see? Because I could name a load right now, but I'm not in a position to tell them,
Well, there's the number one thing I would say is who are you hanging around with? Because it's easy to be influenced by a friend, and it's usually a guy that you might have grew up with, a friend that you had in school or something, but they're not on the same path as you. So for them, you can go out, have a drink. Don't do alcohol. Do not drink alcohol. Please don't do it. It has a lot of reasons of why it's going to actually decline your performance. No matter, it doesn't help you in any type of way. And thinking doing it just one time is not going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you because now you broke the ice. You did it, and now it's going to be easier to do it again. And this inhibits protein synthesis, which means it's just if you train hard and then you have alcohol, whatever you eat is not going to properly go into the muscle, so you're not going to recover properly. That's a big one. People overlook that. They don't realize you're actually taking away your speed. You're diluting your power, your stamina, your punch resistance. Everything is going down whenever you're drinking alcohol, period. And regarding the friends, a lot of times those influences can get you to do that, to go to that party and to just relax and chill and drink. And it just, honestly, it's best to not even try. Don't even test it out, because if you look at some of the best fighters ever, they never even had a sip. They never did a drug. Now, there's fighters that have overcame it and that are able to do it. That's great, and it's of course, but you just got to really be conscious of who are you hanging around with, because we really do become the people we're around. We can't help it. It's human nature. Mirror neurons in the brain. We kind of mimic how they are, the way they act, what they do. It's just natural. You got to be around people that really want your best interest, that are aligned with your goals.
Mm-hmm. And those people that are inviting you out, that are wanting to have fun, are they going to be there when you lose?
They might be there. They might be there. They might not. But do you really want them there to begin with? That's the real question. Do you really want them there to begin with? I mean, if they're not trying to invite you out and they're always looking for your best interest, then that's a great friend. Even if you're not on the same path, that's a real person you can keep around. But if they are inviting you out and doing all that, and they want you to do this and do that, and they're trying to pressure you, man, they might be a low-key hater. They might want to see you lose. It could be that too. And you want to stay away from those guys. Stay away. They don't know. They're not a fighter, so they couldn't understand. They could never understand.
I was with Abel Sanchez at Big Bear a few weeks ago, and I managed to have lunch with him, and it was just a nice general chat, got to pick his brains, and I just said, what's the best bit of advice you could give me in my position? And it sort of works for everyone, but he just said, keep your circle small. Because the more people there are, the more drama, the more everything, right? And it really sunk in too, because it's so easy to say yes to somebody at the time. It's so easy to spread yourself a little bit thin, and that can take your eye away from whatever you're doing.
Yeah, that's so true. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to disappoint people and be okay with that. It's okay. That's why they say that boxing can be a lonely sport, because many people they don't understand. You're misunderstood as a fighter, especially one that's really focused and locked in. You're gonna have to say no to a lot of things. It just is what it is. You have to say no to this and yes to your dreams, yes to your goals. And the right people will understand that. The right people will fit into that, and they'll be like, okay, he's that way. I understand. And even if they don't understand, they'll accept it, and they'll be like, they still won't judge you about it. I think that's the main thing. And it's okay. If you say no and they get mad and they get disappointed, then they weren't the right fit in your life to begin with. I mean, it is what it is. This is how the sport is how the cookie crumbles. And in sport and life, period, you have to be around people that are aligned with your goals.
And would you say for some people, maybe competing in boxing might not be for them? Because I feel like there's a lot of pros that I've been around in the last 3 years, let's say, and of course boxing can be for everybody, but some people can be quite deluded to what they're getting into, where the business is very hard, you're going to be paycheck to paycheck, and if some people don't have what it takes, and you can see that, of course you can train it, but I do feel like there's a lot of fighters out there that will put their all into a career that will never blossom. And it's, I guess, maybe letting them know the expectations of where they're at. And I've met some great people, and they're like, all I want to win is an English title. And that is doable. If you train your ass off for 10 years and you get the right shot, you could become an English champion, right? It's still fairly low down. But would you say there's certain fighters that sometimes need to maybe check themselves on if it's for them? Because it is a career that it doesn't, you can put everything into it and it doesn't give it back sometimes. You see guys that finish their career with no money, potential brain damage that they're going to see later on in life, and resetting from no real brand, no basis. Obviously, you've been at a high level and you're in a good position yourself, but there's a lot of boxers that retire that will never even get to that level.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it's like, how do you tell somebody, look, man, you just don't got it. You just don't have it. And I've seen that too at times. People, they can go hard, but there's just something not there, and it's going to be tough to get to that next level. And man, that's a tough one, because you don't want to just tell a person and just kind of, you're going to be the bad guy for sure. You tell somebody that, they're going to be like, you don't believe in me. Sometimes they just have to go through their course. And I feel, even though they may not make it in boxing, the universe, life, God is going to make things happen the way they're supposed to be at the end of the day, regardless. And like I said before, that same determination can transfer over to another field. I mean, something can happen to prevent you from going all the way anyways. It could be an injury, or God forbid, it's not something real serious, brain damage. That's a risk that every fighter takes at all levels. But I mean, discouraging a person from going for it, that's a touchy subject. It's tough to say. It's tough to answer that one concretely.
I guess it's more because I'm thinking of you maybe going into a coaching role. You're going to have to manage a lot of expectations as you go through a variety of people.
Yeah, well, it would be like, look, if you really want to get to the goal that you say, you're going to really have to be completely all in. And I mean obsessed. You need to go all in. And I don't mean whatever you think is all in is not all in. I mean, I'm talking about blocking out every single distraction and really putting in the work. And I feel like a person can get pretty damn far if they do that, because there's been a lot of fighters who weren't necessarily, they didn't have the physical attributes of comparison to other fighters, but they were able to maximize their own strengths and they get to a pretty decent level through that. And I feel that that's really what it would take. It would take that full immersion, that immersion into the craft, and they have to be real with themselves. They have to be real with themselves and really be willing to do that. That would be my best advice.
Amazing. And lastly, just to touch up on back to your book, really, I can't wait to read it. What advice would you give to anyone that's going to be looking to buy your book? Is there any specific chapters that mean quite a lot to you when you were writing those notes? Is there anything in particular in there that, or is it just full of knowledge?
It's full of knowledge. It really is. I love every chapter. When I was writing this book, I'm just thinking, I'm just going to give value. I'm just putting it all out there. I'm even in the playing field. I'm just giving it all out there through trial and error, through research, just getting the knowledge and seeing what worked, what didn't work, what works for other great fighters from the past to the present, seeing the patterns and just putting it all out there. And I would say the whole rundown of the mindset chapter is powerful because it begins in the mind. And then it gets into the preparation, and that everything that has regarding the preparation I love as well, because to me it's not just mindset and it's not just being physically prepared, it's both. And I think they go hand in hand. I think they're interchangeable. I think they're connected. They're deeply interconnected, where you mentally are on point, then your body can physically do what you're mentally, it was in your mind. And then vice versa. When you physically put in the work, mentally you're going to become confident. You're going to become more pushed in to do more work, because it's kind of like this dopamine cycle that you get through the action. It's called the action motivation loop, where you put in the action, now you become motivated. You're motivated, now you put in the action, and you just keep going like that. So it's kind of just intertwined. It's all connected. And there's some other chapters in there. There's some things that probably people never really think of, or uncommon methods. And it's up for the person to use what works for them. Everybody's an individual. This is not cookie cutter. There's no one way to do it. Every fighter is unique. Every person is unique. They have to try out things and see what works for them, what resonates with them. And they need to maximize their own God-given ability. And that is how they can forge their path to greatness themselves.
Amazing. Well, Bryant, it's been great speaking with you, and I definitely want to have a catch up with you after I've read your book too, if that's okay.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. I would love that. Appreciate you for having me on here.
No, thank you. And honestly, to see you already with choosing just in the last few months to finish the career, move on, you should be very proud of yourself. You've committed your life to something, and big things are coming for you. I know that for sure.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Likewise, same to you, man. Kudos to everything you've been doing. You say you had a long amateur career, and then you're a fighter yourself, and you transition, and that's just amazing, and it's inspirational to me as well.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm just a boxing fan that gets to chat to amazing people like yourself every day, and it's a dream job that I've got. So yeah, thank you for your time, and I'll catch up with you soon, my man.
Sounds good. Take care.
Go, go, go.